Okay, we are. I think we left off at the two dots. Um, we're 14 lines down. 14. I think it's 14 lines down. Tan Rabbanan. The last two words by the two dots. Tan Rabbanan. Ein amdim lispala lo mitoch din v'lo mitoch dvar halacha mitoch halacha psuka. When someone is getting ready to daven, so we want a person to be able to concentrate properly when he's davening. So a person shouldn't sit down to daven right after he finished having a court case, because then we're afraid that during davening he's going to be wondering about the case that he was doing. He shouldn't do it when he was learning halacha about different laws that are going into place, because we're afraid that then during davening again he's going to be thinking about what are the laws that he was learning about. Elam mitoch halacha psuka. You should only you should go into davening learning something that's very clear cut, that there's no disagreement about it at all, that a Jewish law that everyone agrees upon. And the Gemara says, what are the examples of something that's clear cut and that no one disagrees upon? Vehechi dami halacha psuka. Amar Abaye ki had Rab Zera. It's like Rab Zera, dam Rab Zera. Benos Yisrael hechmiru al atzman, that Jewish women were stringent upon themselves. Shafilu rose tipas dam kachardal, even if they see just a drop of menstrual blood, when they're in need, if they just have a drop of blood that they see that's the size of a mustard seed, Yoshvos Alam Shiva Nakim, they keep 7 days of tahara, because the rule is like this, that midoraisa from the Torah, if a woman sees blood when it's time for her cycle, so and I'm an accountant, so I may get this mixed up. So if I go into tax laws while I'm discussing this, just ignore it. But a woman, if it's her period and she sees blood, so midoraisa for 7 days, she has to count 7 days and then she's tahar. Doesn't make a difference if she sees blood every single day. As long as there's some sort of stoppage before the 7 days are up, midoraisa she's tahar, and that's the end of it. And if a woman sees blood when it's not her time, when it's not her period, which is called, she's a zava. Okay, and if she sees 3 days in a row, then she has to count for 7 days. She has to have 7 days of not seeing any blood, of being clean, and then she's able to go to the mikvah. So Benos Yisrael have accepted upon themselves that even if they see on day 6 or day 7 when they're counting, and they were clean before that, they'll go another 7 days. Even if they see a drop of blood, they'll go another 7 days. That is a clear-cut halacha. That's one of the examples that the Gemara gives. That is a clear-cut halacha that you could study that before you go to daven. The second one is Rava Amar Kihad Rav Hoshia. The Amar Rav Hoshia Marim Adam al Tfuah, so that a person can play trickery with his grains. If he wants to be able to use all of his grains and not have to give meiser on it, so the way to do it is he plays a trick. What does he do? That he brings it into the house while it's still in its husk, while he hasn't yet cleared off the stuff off of the wheat. Because that way, the halacha is that you don't have to give meiser on something until you've cleaned the. I'm not a farmer. You clean the stuff off the wheat, whatever it is. Chaff. Thank you very much. Okay, so if you clean the chaff off the wheat and you have to bring it in through the front door, then you're chayav to give meiser. You have to separate out meiser from the wheat that you brought into the house. So if a person wants to do trickery, what he should do is don't take the chaff off of the wheat, bring it into your house, bring it in through the back door even. Then it doesn't see the front door of the house. It's not considered to have seen the front of the house. And then you're able to feed your animal because it's considered to be snack food. Anytime you feed your animals, it's considered to be snack food. So that way, the person worked his way around the obligation to have to give meiser by doing this quote-unquote trickery. A third example of a clear-cut halacha that no one disagrees about, that you could learn right before you go into davening. V'boy seima ki had Rav Huna, dam Rav Huna, am Rav Zeira. Hamak is dam bebehemis kachim. If someone draws blood out from an animal that was sanctified, that was supposed to be brought for a carbon for kachim, asher bahana, it is asher umelimba, and you're going to do me'ilah. The halacha is that you are not allowed to use kachim for your own personal use, but normally for blood, that doesn't apply. There is no such concept as using blood for your. It's called me'ilah. If someone uses something that's kachim when he's not supposed to, it's called me'ilah. So there's no concept like that when it comes to blood, that once you shecht an animal and you have the blood, there's no me'ilah with it. But in those days, if they used to think that letting blood was healthy. So if someone if before they shechted the animal, if they let blood out from the animal, that blood is asher and hana, and if someone uses it, that's going to be mila. Those are three examples that are, I don't know. Those are the ones that the Gemara picked that would be simple, that no one argues about it. I know I don't disagree about it when I hear it. So, okay. Rabbanon acted like the Mishnah, which said that someone is only able to daven after he's already taken some time beforehand to get into the right frame of mind to do it. Rav Ashi and Rav Ashi would do like the Brisa, that he would only go into davening after he would do some sort of clear-cut halacha before he would daven, and then he would start davening. Ton Rabbanon. A person shouldn't daven Shmona Esrei lo mitoch atzvos when he's sad, lo mitoch atzvos, or if he's feeling lazy, lo mitoch sok, or if he's laughing, lo mitoch sich, or if he's talking, lo mitoch kalos rosh, or if he was just not taking things seriously at that time, lo mitoch dvarim b'telim, or if he's just doing anything that really is not pertaining to davening, el mitoch simcha shel mitzvah. You should go into davening Shmona Esrei. You should have the joy of the mitzvah that you're doing of davening. That's when a person should be going into davening. Similarly, when a person is leaving his friend, lo mitoch sicha, you shouldn't do it just talking again about stupidities. Lo mitoch slok, or just laughter. Lo mitoch kalos rosh, or again just things that are not serious. Lo mitoch dvarim b'telim, and not something that really has no importance at all. Lo mitoch dvar halacha, but the way that a person should leave his friend is he should leave him by giving him over a dvar Torah. He should leave him by giving over some sort of halacha. Shekain matzina b'neviim harishonim, that we find that by the neviim shesimu divreim b'divrei shavach v'tachanunim, that the neviim, even if the prakim of Navi are filled with where they're giving musar to the Bnei Yisrael, and they're talking about all the sad things that are happening, the bad things that have happened, but they end the Navi on a high note. They end it with saying something that's more joyous. So again, I don't know exactly. The Gemara is saying that when you're leaving someone, it shouldn't be just like just with idleness, without having anything. I mean, there's a benefit. There's a time and a place for everything. So a person should really, again, if you feel that your friend needs it, then I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But it's best if you could leave him with some sort of words of Torah when you're leaving. V'chein Tana Mari bar Breid Rav Huna, Breid Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba, that he said, the same thing that a person shouldn't leave when he's learning something that has to do with halacha, because if you leave your friend and you leave him with the Dvar Torah, you leave him with the halacha, that way he's going to remember him more than if you just discuss with him what was the score of the game this afternoon. That's just something that's going to slip from his mind. Kihad Rav Kahana Alvai Rav Simi Bar Ashi Bipum Nahara Ad Beitz Nisa de Bavel. We have that Rav Kahana who was accompanying Rav Shimi Bar Ashi from Pum Nahara until Beitz Nisa, which was a place that was in Bavel. Kimatul Hassam, when they got there, Amar Le, he said to him, so Rav Kahana said to him, Mar Vadai da Amri Inchi, is it true what people say? Hani Tznisa de Bavel Isnu me Adam Rishon Vad Hasha, that these palm trees that we have that are here, they have been around since the time of Adam Harishon. So Amar Le, he said to him, Adarkan Milsa de Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, you remind me something that Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina said. Dam Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, my dechsiv be'eretz asher lo avar ba'ish v'lo yashav adam sham, that you're going to go into a land in which no person has passed and no one has settled. So the Gemara asks, V'chima achar de lo avar heich yashav, if no one passed through there, of course no one settled there. If you never had someone that passed through a piece of land that's somewhere in this world, and you say that no one's ever walked here before, then of course there isn't going to be a settlement there. So what does the pasuk mean when it says both things, that a person didn't pass through there and it wasn't settled? The second part is redundant. You don't need it. That when Adam Arishon, when the world was created, and Adam Rishon said that there's going to be a settlement in this place over here, in Baltimore, Maryland, whatever he called it then, he says there's going to be a settlement that's going to take place. That place, that meant that it was ultimately destined that it was going to have a settlement that was going to be there. And any land which Adam Rishon did not say is going to be settled, then it was not settled. Rav Mordechai Avel Rav Simi Bar Ashi Mahar Gonya V'Ad Kipi, and he accompanied him Ramlallah Abe Dura, and some say that he took it to Beit Dura, and the Mefarshim say they're not sure exactly why the Gemara brought this down. It's not saying anything. It doesn't say that he learned any halacha with him. It doesn't say that he did any Torah with him. It just said that he accompanied him. So it's not really clear, exactly why the Gemara put that in here. Okay, now we are going to learn the Gemara that's going to be speaking about Chana, which we're going to talk about as we get into it. Tan Rabbanan. That when someone who's davening, he has to have his he has to have his mind towards Shemayim, towards Hashem. Avashal Omer, similar davar, the way to remember that, Tachin Libam Takshiv Aznacha, that when Klal Yisrael, when we have in mind in our heart, then Hashem, so to speak, bends his ear to listen to what we're saying. So we first have to get in our mind straight what we want to say, and then Hashem listens to what we have to. Hashem's going to listen to what we have to say. Tanya Rabbi Yehuda, Kachaya Minhago Shel Rabbi Kiva, that Rabbi Kiva, who was the Rav wherever he were in the city that he was, when he was davening with the shul, he would daven very quickly. He didn't want everyone to have to wait for him to daven a long Shemona Esrei. So when he was davening with the minyan, with the shul, which if you notice in the Gemara, very often it seems to speak that they didn't always daven with the minyan. It says when he davened with the minyan, and when he was there with the shul, so he would daven. He didn't want them to have to wait, that they would have to wait for him to daven. So he would daven very quickly. He would finish up because he didn't want to bother everyone. When he was davening by himself, let's say in his own house, a person could leave him in one corner where he started davening, and he would find him in another corner. And what does that mean? Why would you leave him in one corner to start davening Shemona Esrei, and then you'd find him in another one? Because he would bow down. In those days, when they would bow down, they didn't bow the way that we do, but they would bow down. They would actually do the full, laying down on their faces like we do on Yom Kippur. So Rabbi Kiva, he would do so many of them during Shemona Esrei that he would, if you would keep doing that, you're going to end up moving. So he had so much kavanah and so much intent when he was davening. He got so into it that he ended up being in another corner of the room. And Tosfos points out that you're not able to do you're not able to just bow down at the end of every bracha. You're not supposed to do that. We learned that you're not supposed to bow at the end of every bracha, but he says he did it during the bracha. He was so taken with emotion when he was davening to Hashem that he would bow down in the middle of the bracha, which that's not a problem. Okay, next Gemara. A person when he's davening should always daven in a house that has windows. Shenemar v'kivan psichon lei, that it has windows open to it. That when it was that it was talking about Daniel, that the government had decreed that the king had said that the only person that people could could go to for requests was to the king himself. And Daniel didn't stick with that. Daniel he kept davening to Hashem. And how did they know that Daniel was still davening? Because they saw that he had windows. The windows were open, and they saw that he was davening. So then they took him. That's the whole story, that they threw him into the den of lions. So you see that you're supposed to have windows where you're davening. And I think they said that very often you find that shuls, not all of them, but a lot of shuls have 12 windows because of the 12 shvatim. The Gemara then says another brayso which says that you might think that a person could daven all day long if he wants to. But we learn from Daniel that he only davened 3 times a day. So he davened shachris min chamar. That's the only. You might think you could daven Shemona Esrei as many times as you want. We learned from Daniel that he only davened 3 times. So you might think that that's only when he went into Galus, but before he went into Galus, when he was still in Eretz Yisrael, he davened many Shemona Esrei throughout the day. Gemara says no, that's not the case. Kfar Nemar di hava aved min kadmas dina, that he used to do this. Even before he came into Galus, he also would daven Shemona Esrei only 3 times a day. Yachol yispal adam l'chol ruach shir. So now you might think that a person could daven in any direction that he wants to. The Gemara says, Tamalomer, the pasuk says, Neged Yerushalayim, that he would daven with, again, either towards Yerushalayim, or if you didn't know which way Yerushalayim was, as we learned earlier, a person's supposed to have in his mind that he's davening to Yerushalayim. Yeah, the Gemara then says, Yachol Yehei Kol Olam B'Vas Achas. You might think, you might say to yourself, I got a very busy day today, so let me just daven 3 Shemona Esreis right now. It's Shachris. Let me daven Shachris Min Chamarv. I'm going to daven 3 Shemona Esreis right now and knock it out. So Gemara says, Kvar Mefurish Eidei David. You do it in the evening, in the morning, and in the afternoon. So now you might think that a person is supposed to hear what he's saying when he's davening, because Allah is that you're not supposed to be disturbing other people when you're davening. Rather, you're supposed to do it quietly. We learn from Chana, Shenemar, Yishma, that her voice was not heard. And we're going to, again, the Gemara, I think we're going to get to it tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about Chana. You might think that a person should first say, we have the first three brachos of Shemona Esrei, and then we have the middle ones, which is where we ask for Hashem for refuah and parnasa and shmakul. We ask all for different tefillos that we ask Hashem for. So you might think that first a person should ask Hashem for his wants and his needs, and then he should praise Hashem, saying the first three brachos of Magen Avram and Mechayim Mesim and Kel HaKadosh. So Gemara says, Kvar Mefarash Adei Shlomo Shenamar Lishmoa El Arina Vel Tefila, that to listen to the song and to the prayer. Rina Zu Tefila, that Rina is Tefila, which means that you first you praise Hashem. Tefila Zu Bakasha, and Tefila is the request. So first you say the first three brachos, which are where we praise Hashem, and then you do the personal request. You do after you said that. Ein Omer Dvar. You're not supposed to say anything once you say Gal Yisrael. You're not supposed to say anything between that and Shemona Esrei. As we've said, the Gemara has said earlier, you're supposed to be Somech Gula L'Tefillah. You're supposed to connect redemption with davening. Aval Achar Tefillah, but when you come to the end of Shemona Esrei, Afilu Kaseder Vidu Shal Yom Kippurim Omer, a person could go into the Vidu of Yom Kippur. He could really take as much time as he wants. He could ask for whatever he wants. Once he gets to Elokai Netzar, he could say whatever he wants at that point. Itmar Nami, Amar Rav Chia, Barashi, Amar Rav, Aval Pisha, Amru Shal, Adam Tzracha, B'Shmaya Tefillah. Even though we said that a person could say whatever he wants during Shema Koleinu, in Baal Amar Achar Tefillah, so Afilu Keseder Shiyam Kippurim Amar. But if he wants, he should say it really after Shemona Esrei. And the Mefarshim say that really a person, if he has a lot of bakashos that he has, he shouldn't do it in Shema Koleinu, because in Shema Koleinu you're limited, you're not able to answer any. You can't answer Kedusha, you can't answer Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah if you're in middle of Shemona Esrei. But if a person is already in Elokai Netzar, and he's saying whatever tefillos that he has, requests that he has to Hashem, then he is able to answer Kedusha, he is able to answer Yehei Shmei Rabbah, so you should say it at that point.
Why would we think that you could ask for your needs before then you should be'ech Hashem? What would be the logic behind that?
The logic? I don't know. A person maybe he's going to be more heartfelt if he's It's one thing to praise Hashem. It's one thing to praise Hashem, but if a person has someone in mind that needs a refuah, okay, they want to just get straight into it and they want to be able to just pour out their hearts to Hashem. That's the praise part is it will come, but first they're going to make the request, because that's really what they feel strongest about. That's their deepest bakasha. Okay, now we're going to discuss the halachos that we learned from the way that Chana davened. Amar Rav Hamnuna, Kama hilchasa gevarsa ikal amashma mehani kroi dechana. There are many halachos that we learned from Chana. Chana was the mother of Shmuel, and what happened was Chana was not able to have any children. So she went with her husband. When he went to be Ola Regel, he went to Yerushalayim. She came with him, and she went to daven, and she was davening. And Eli walks in, and he sees this woman that seems to be whispering, and he thinks that she's drunk. He thinks that she's drunk, and she says, "I'm not drunk. You don't know what you're talking about." And he realizes that he made a mistake, and he gives her a bracha, and from that Shmuel Hanavi was born. That was Chana was the mother of Shmuel Hanavi. So the Gemara is going to go through the psukim now and discuss the halachos that we learn out from the way that she was davening and how a person is supposed to daven when he's saying Shemona Esrei. So the Gemara said in Shmuel it says Chana was speaking in her heart. From here we learn out that a person who's davening has to, as we said earlier, he has to get it in his heart that he's speaking directly to Hashem. Then the pasuk says, "Raks vaseha knows that only her lips moved." We learn from here that someone who's davening has to pronounce the words with your lips. It's not enough just to think Shemona Esrei. You actually have to say the words quietly to yourself when you're davening. And her voice was not heard. So we see from here that a person is not able to raise his voice when he's davening. He has to be cognizant of the people that are around him. So a person should daven Shemona Esrei, but they should not be raising their voice so that they're going to be disturbing others. And Eli thought that she was drunk. From here we learn that someone who's drunk is not allowed to daven. And we will finish. I think we're going to stop here and we'll finish the story of Chana tomorrow night.